Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Metzia DAF Vav. We are holding right on top, on Amar Aleph, Ve'elahod Amar of Nachman. Okay, let's do a brief summation of where we're holding. So the Mishnah speaks about two people clutching a talus, each one claiming it as his. I found it. No, I found it. It's mine. No, it's mine. Mishnah says, we split it down the middle, not before they make a shvuah to validate their claims. Now, why is a shvuah necessary? I mean, if you're holding something, we presume it's yours. Rabbi Yehuda says, actually, it's a takanas chachamim to dissuade snatchers, so that people are scared off from, snatching other people's garments. Therefore, we impose a shvuah on you to dissuade you from doing that. The question on that was, well, either way, if we don't trust you, if we're concerned that you just, taking the other fellow's items, so you're chashud amamayna, you're suspected of stealing, how can we trust you with a shvuah? Right? So, the Gemara says, money is different than a shvuah. A person sometimes succumbs to monetary temptations, but he'll resist when it comes to making a shvuas sheker, which has a lot of severity to it. Here comes a kasha. Ve'elahod Amar of Nachman. What about Rav Nachman's halach? Rav Nachman says, Mashbin oisei shvuas heses. Right? So basically, we're going through a string of halachis now, which seem to tell us this point, that you cannot draw a parallel between being unscrupulous monetarily to being dishonest when it comes to a shvuah. So we had several examples, and now comes another example, which is going to, we're going to try to establish this point once again, that just because a person might be dishonest when it comes to money, it's not going to extend into making a shvuas sheker. Right? It's not going to spill into shvuas sheker. Ve'elahod Amar of Nachman. Right? Here's another example. Rav Nachman says, Mashbin oisei shvuas heses. Right? We had this the other day. If a person totally denies, he's a kaifer akoil. Where's my money? Nothing doing, right? So, with the Rabbanon, we activate something called shvuas heses, like mesis umediach. We try to push you to admit. So you have to swear to validate your claim. What do you mean? If you think he's lying, if you think he's stealing money, how can you trust him with a shvuah? Nemo, we should say, migud chashad amamayna chashad shvuasa. Right? If he's chashad on mammon, he's chashad on shvuah. We'll sue another raya. Hadatanu Reb Chia. This is in the case where the employer had instructed, the bank, whatever, to store owner to provide for his workers as part of their salary. He claims he gave it, they claim they never got it. What do we do now? The Tanur Reb Chia, shneim nishboin, v'noitlen bal bayis, both the worker and the merchant can come back to the employer, to the bal bayis, demand payment for their services. They make a shvuah and they take. Well, one of them is lying. Right? Either him or him. V'nemo, so there as well, we should apply this idea of migu d'chashad amamay, d'chashad shvuasa. If you suspect him of stealing, how can you trust him with a shvuah? V'su another right. Ha'adam Rav Sheshes. We're speaking about a shemer chinam, a person who did a favor, he washed something, it got stolen, or so he claims. Rav Sheshes says, well, shalosh shvuos mashbin oisai. We get him to swear 3 times. Number 1, shvuah shalei pashati bo. I swear that I was not negligent, which caused this item to be stolen. Number 2, shvuah shalei shalachta b'yad. You should know I haven't used it. I haven't diverted it to personal use prior to this theft. Because if that were the case, Rashi explains, he turns into a gazlan. And a gazlan is fully responsible, even for accidents, even for thefts. No, I didn't use it. It was sitting there in the corner. Number 3, shvuah she'eina b'reshus. You should know that I don't have it. I really don't have it. So the question is, well, evidently, you're suspecting that perhaps he does have it. That means he's stealing. Neima, so how could you trust him with a shvua? We should say migu the chashad amamayna. Since he's suspected of stealing, chashash shvuasa, he's suspected of swearing falsely. Allah, this proves our point. You can't compare the two. La yamrina, we don't say migu the chashad amamayna chashash shvuasa. End of discussion. Abaya Omar. Abaya says, look, let's go back to the original question. Shnai me'uchsam betalis. Each one gets 50%. Provided they swear. Why swear? You have it in your hands. Keep it. So Rabbi Yehuda told us because maybe he took it from the other. That sort of triggered the whole conversation here, the whole discussion. Whether or not we say a person suspected of monetary dishonesty will be also suspected of shua dishonesty. Okay? So the conclusion was, no, just because he'll be dishonest with mammon, but the fact that he'll have to make a shvua, that will scare him off. Abaya Omar, no. If a chesed that he's going to grab the other person's item, he's going to make a false shvua as well. So apparently, we're not going down that route. So why then does he make a shvua? We're not chesed that he grabbed it. No, because otherwise you wouldn't gain anything with a shvua. Abaye Omar Chayshin, and rather the concern is Shama Milva Yeshana Yeshlei Olav. The reason why Shnai Mechsim Metalis both have to swear, not because he grabbed it. Concern is that perhaps there's an old debt owed to him. And Reuben saw this as an opportunity, a golden opportunity. And he seized the opportunity by seizing the garment from Shimon, his Baal Chayiv. And Rashi says, actually, when he'll go make a shvua, it's really, he's not being dishonest. It's really owed to me. Rashi says, you know why? Afil glima da'al katfei shabedlei. When one borrows, he commits to his lender anything that he owns, even a shirt on his back. So here's your shirt. It's mine. Chayshinan shema milva yeshana yeshla olav. So he's not stealing. He's right. If that's the case, if we're interpreting his actions in this manner, then why a shvua altogether? Nishka b'lei shvua, let him take it without a shvua. It's his. Ella rather chayshinan shema safik milva yeshana yeshla olav. We're concerned that perhaps he recalls some sort of Suffolk Milvi Yeshana, maybe some old accounts that they may have not yet settled. He's not sure, but he has to, confirm that. So he took the opportunity to grab the talis in the meantime, hoping that will serve to repay that potential debt that he's being owed. And therefore, we say, hold it. You may be right. He may owe you the money, but let's make a shvua. And now he'll say, oh, okay, one second, shvua, actually, I'm not sure, and I'll let go. Why? Why would the shvua dissuade him? Haven't we just said, tafis mamani masfeka? He grabs the garment, even though he's not 100% sure it's owed to him. Likewise, he'll make a shvua, even though he's not 100% certain. If he'll do this, he'll do that too. What are you accomplishing by imposing a shvua? No, people don't work like that. Why? Parshi inshi misafik shvua. A person is more, has a tendency to quickly back off from making a suffix shvua, parshi misafik mamayna, rather than backing off from the mammon, which may or may not be owed to him. You know why? Because doing a shvua under these circumstances is more weighty. It's more consequential. My time, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll give back the garment. So let me snatch it temporarily until we verify. But shvua, once you push him to make a shvua, he's going to be more careful. Less of b'chazor, you cannot do it. Words spoken cannot be retracted. So bottom line, each one gets 50% with a shvua. Why? Rabbi Yehuda says to dissuade robbers. Abaye says because maybe there's some sort of old account that he's trying to settle. The shvua will clarify things. Takfa echad b'faneinu ma'u. So Shnayim Eichsam Batalas, and one of them snatched it, totally snatched it, in front of us, from his friend, who was holding it until then. Ma, what's the halach? Echidami, what exactly happened? How did the other fellow respond? Either shasik, if he was quiet, he remained silent in face of this snatch. Well, obviously he's conceding. Oiduye, oidile, he's conceding to Reuven's ownership. Why should we get involved now? Well, if he's yelling and screaming, what do you expect from him to do? What more can he do? Of course, he still has a claim to the item. Doesn't change anything. Like Tzricha must be speaking the shasik mi'ikara. Initially, when Reuven snatched it, Shimon's initial response was silence. And a while later, he regained his composure and he started protesting. Mai, how do we treat this? Two ways to look at it. Mida ashtik, his initial silence, was that a sort of a subconscious admission to Reuven's ownership? Right? His initial reaction, sometimes, a person's initial gut reaction can really reveal a lot. It's a genuine expression of reality. So it's a true concession. Or no. Don't perceive it as such. No, not at all. Because since he's yelling and screaming now, 10 minutes later, that clarifies for us the only reason why I was quiet initially, because he was thinking, Rabban standing and watching, they're going to defend me. But now that he sees he has to fend for himself, he's yelling and screaming. Don't take it as a concession. Amar Nachum Tashma, we're going to try to prove what to do in this case. Again, they both came in holding the item. Reuven snatched it. Shimon was initially silent, and then he started protesting. Tashma, here comes it right. But when do we say the din of Yachleiku? Sheshnei Madukin Bo. When they're both clutching it. But if a talus is in possession of only one of these parties, the fellow who's trying to get it out, he has to prove his case, and Rashi adds the word be'edim. He has to have edim. End of Brisa. Now, what exactly happened? Are we speaking literally that Reuven is walking to Bezdin holding an item, which is totally in his possession, and therefore we say it's his unless proven otherwise? All pshita, obviously. There's no need to discuss that. Must be that there's some sort of catch here. That what occurred was exactly as we described. They both came in holding it. But then, while standing there, one of them grabbed it. And as Rashi adds, and the other fellow was silent, and then he started protesting exactly as per our case. And the Brisa seems to say that in this type of case, Reuven keeps it. It's perceived as a concession to Reuven. My skin was speaking on the Asul, come on, K'tfis Tarbai. No, it was a more simple case. They both came in holding it. Okay? No, we looked up the halacha, we opened up Shnayim Eichsam Batalas, Mishnah says Achleiku, that's what we told them. V'amina lu, we tell them Zilu, go out, Plugu, go split it. Okay? They left the room. V'hadar us, and they came back, a totally different picture. Only one of them was holding on to it. Now what happened outside the courtroom? We're not sure, we have no cameras. What? Hi Omar. So we have another dispute as to what happened outside. Hi Omar, oiduli, oidili. So the fellow who's holding it now, Reuven, is claiming that Shimon, outside, he admitted. He conceded to my ownership. Vahi Omar, and Shimon vehemently disagrees. What are you making stories? I never said that to you. I saw you so desperate to have this thing. I said, you know what? Instead of cutting the thing, I'll let you have it, and you'll rent it from me. You'll rent it from me, $2 a month. I rented it to him. I never relinquished my ownership. Actually, I rented it to him. Says the Brisa, guess what? Reuven wins. Suddenly you're renting things to people that steal things from you? A minute ago, you claimed that he was robbing it from you. Now you're suddenly trusting him? That doesn't really hold water. We tell Shimon, look, until this moment, you accused him of being a gazlan. And suddenly you're turning around, trusting him. Now, you're renting him something without Edim. So it's speaking about this type of case, and therefore Reuven keeps it. another option to explain this halacha. It's exactly as per the words of the Brisa, that they come into Bezdin with only Reuven holding the item. The Osel come on, but there is some sort of twist as well. It's not an obvious case, because what happened was like this. The Osel come on, they came before us, Kitavas Lachad Minayu. Reuven was actually holding it, but Shimon was just like sort of hanging on to the fringes. Misrach Basruchi. And the point of the matter is that that's not called possession, right? Even Sumchas Shita, which we had back in DAF Beis, who says that money which is sitting in a state of uncertainty, right? We see that there's some sort of uncertainty in terms of who owns. We say Yichalkin, without need to make a shvur. But in this case, even Sumchas would agree this circle of klumhi, this fringe, holding on to, that's not considered a muhzak, and we don't see him involved. We only see Reuven holding it, and therefore we don't even have a suffix. Reuven walks away with the entire item. Okay, let's just recap. Reb Zera had a shaila, Shlomo has some metalas, and now Reuven grabs it. Shimon is silent and then protests. How do we view it? Concession or not? Now, continues the Gemara. We'll build on that. If you propose that takfa echad b'fanenu, in this case where Reuven snatched it in front of us, we force it out, right? We compel him to give it back. We don't consider it to be a determination of ownership. So there's no question now. If this in fact is the halacha, that if Reuven decides, I'm going to make the whole thing hegdish, right? Rashi explains, hegdish means before he even snatched it. So as they're both holding it together, Reuven says, I'm magdish, I'm making the whole thing, committing it to the Beis HaMikdash. It doesn't work. Rashi says, because making it hegdish is no more powerful than snatching it. And if you would snatch it, it wouldn't work. So hegdish, you can't just turn it to hegdish when it's not yours. But on the other hand, if we were to take the other route, that in this type of case where you would snatch it, right, we don't make you give it up, because as we said, your opponent's initial silence is an indication of your ownership. And Tosfos adds, and that's what we're speaking about now, that he was going to be magdish it in this type of fashion. He's going to say hegdish and have the other person be silent and then protest. So it's the same type of configuration, except instead of physically stealing it, he's sort of spiritually stealing it. He's donating it to the hegdish against the other, his opponent's wishes. But on the other hand, if we say that grabbing it in this fashion is a determination of his ownership, we don't make him give it up. So what if he did not snatch it physically, but he was magdish it? What happens then? Does it take effect or not? Since we learned, when you verbally commit something to the Beis HaMikdash, it's as though it's equal in value to physically handing it over to to another person. Meaning the mode of transfer between ordinary people is physical transfer, right? Verbally committing something to the Beis HaMikdash is tantamount to physical transfer. If that's the case, Kamanda Takva Dami. Reuven's declaration of hegdish on this disputed item is viewed as a physical snatch. It should be so, right? And therefore, it has the same effect as physically snatching. In which case it's deemed his. Or no. Because actually, hashta mia halay takfa. At this very moment, was it snatched yet? No. Was it physically in his possession? No. That's it. So he can't be magdi. He doesn't have the ability to donate it. Why? Uksiv, the pasuk says, "V'ish ki yagdish is basically kodesh." The pasuk in describing a fellow being magdish cites a classical case of a person being Magdash's house. And we use that as a precedent, as a model for how Hegdish works. Ma Beisa B'Shusa, just like the home that a person's being Magdish in this pasuk is not only his, but it's in his possession. And that's why the Hegdish works. Afkal B'Shusa, anything you want to be Magdish has to be accessible to you. La Fukiya, as opposed to this disputed item which is half sitting in the other fellow's hands. The La B'Shusa. That's the question. Again, if we shall say that takfa, that the actual snatching makes it yours, does Hegdish work the same way? Could you be Magdish it and let that be considered like a snatch? Tashma. Here comes an attempt at trying to clarify this. There was this bathhouse. There was an ongoing dispute between two parties in terms of who owns it. Right? Hayamar Didiu. Reuben claimed it as his. Vayamar Didiu. Shimon claimed it as his. Okay, we're getting nowhere. Come Chad Minai Agdasha. Reuben gets up and says, I have nothing to lose. It's Hegdish. Right? Parshi Minah. So the Chachamim, Rab Chananya, Rab Oishya, Bekul Rabban, all the Rabban stopped using the bathhouse. They weren't sure how to deal with it. Did the Hegdish take effect? Does he have the ability to make it Hegdish in this type of case? Okay, so they weren't sure, they kept away. When in doubt, stay without. So Rav Oishya asked the Rabbi, next time you travel to Kafri, you go to Rav Chizda, and ask him what to do. On the way to Kafri, he passed by Surah, and he met Rav Amnuna. So he responded, Masnisni, I have a Mishnah, which can shed light on the Shaila, which will prove to us that the Hegdish does take effect in this type of case. Savik B'Charis. So we have, let's say, an animal. We're not sure whether it's the firstborn, kosher animal. Echad B'Char Adam. Whether we're not sure whether it's the firstborn person. Echad B'Char Behemo. Or the firstborn animal. Bein Tahir, Bein Tmei, whether it's a Torah animal, whether it's a Thu May animal, the firstborn donkey, right, which goes to the Kayin, which has to be exchanged for a sheep and given to the Kayin. So all these Safik B'Chairis, all these uncertainties pertaining to firstborns, do you have to pay the Kayin? Well, actually no. If the owner, the Yisrael, the farmer has the animal, the Kayin has to prove his case, otherwise the Yisrael keeps it. On the other hand, if the Kayin happened to snatch it, happens to have it, and Rashi says the Kayin took it, and the Yisrael was silent, and then he protested, mamash our case. So now the Kayin becomes the new owner, takes possession, and the Yisrael has to go prove his case in order to take it back from the Kayin. So it mirrors our discussion, our story. It's a case of uncertainty in terms of ownership, and the Mishnah seems to say that if the Kayin would snatch it, under these circumstances, it's his. Now, B'Tani law, we have a Brisa, adding another point to the Mishnah. Even before the Kayin took it, Asurim B'Gizav Avodah, you have to treat the animal like a B'char. With Kedusha, you can't share its wool, you can't work with it. Why? Because in this case, the Ilu or the Yamar, why do we say the animal has Kedusha? Because if the Kohen would snatch it, he would keep it, right? The Tani, as it said, you want to take it back, you have to prove your case. Meaning, the Kohen has potential ownership, so because he has that access, the animal somewhat identifies with the Kohen, and therefore, even before the Kohen actually snatched it, the animal is considered Hegdish. So you see that Hegdish can be generated due to the fact that you have potential ownership, the fact that you can physically snatch it. So that's why. Because of that, because it identifies with you, you have that access to it, so the Hegdish gets triggered because of that. Likewise, in our case, if one of these parties, these warring parties, Shnai Mechsim Batalis, or the two people fighting over the bathhouse, because I have potential to snatch, I can snatch and I keep it, I have the potential to make it hegdish as well. Amalei Rabba, so Rabba responded to Rav Hamnuna. How could you compare the two stories? You see, we're discussing a question of whether a potential owner can assume ownership by way of making it hegdish. Meaning, is the act of making hegdish considered like a snatch? Right? That was our question. And you're trying to prove it from where? From a Safek B'chur, which is treated like Kedusha because the Kohen has potential to take possession. It's a totally different story. Amalei Rabba Kedusha is B'chur Ka'amr, speaking about a natural Kedusha that a B'chur has. By default, perhaps this whole notion was mistaken. Nobody ever suggested that if the Kohen comes and grabs the B'chur, he keeps it. Under all circumstances, he has to give it back. The reason why the animal has Kedusha is not related to the Kohen's ability to snatch. No. And even still, Asurim Begiz V'Avodah is treated like Kaddish. You know why? It's a natural Kedusha. It's not a personal Kedusha because it belongs by the Kohen, that's why it's Kaddish. No. Even if the Kohen has no access to this animal because it's a Safek, hands off. But you, as the farmer, have to treat it, have to take into account the possibility that it's Kaddish. You have to treat it as such. It's unrelated to the personal connection to the Kohen. The Kedusha Bava Metzia, a Kedusha which descends naturally, is totally different. It's not personal. It's not related to the Kohen's ability to take possession. So in reality, the Kohen cannot snatch it. Still, the big Kedusha. Amalei Rav Chanani Rav Chanani came to Rabbi and he says, actually, I'll prove your point. I'm going to support you. That the Kohen actually has no right to repossess this animal, to take possession of the Safek B'chur. Tanya de Masayalach, have a right from a brisa to your point. Okay, here comes another whole different realm. Hasfeikos nichnasen l'dilis aser. Now we move over from B'chur to Maser Behema. So if the farmer has 10 animals, puts them in the pen, he runs them by one, counts them, 1, 2, 3, the 10th one has Kedusha, it's called Maser Behema. Brought as a curb, right? Now, even the Sfeikos, the Gemara later explains like this. Sfeikos are animals which were used to swap, to exchange the Peter Chamor. So you have a firstborn donkey, you have to swap, you have to be paid with an animal, and give that to the Kohen. Let's say we're not sure whether it's really a firstborn donkey, so you swap it, right? Because even the Yisrael wants to do that in order to, that enables him to use the donkey, right? But he still won't have to give the animal to the Kohen now. Because then we apply the concept Hamoitzi Mechaver al Varaya. So the Isser aspect he has to address, but he doesn't have to actually hand the money over to the sheep to the Kohen. So let's say a fellow has Sveikis, a bunch of these uncertainties. He has sheep that were swapped for Safek firstborn donkeys. Nichnasen l'dirlis aser. You bring them into the pen with all the other animals, and you count them one by one, and the 10th one is Maser Behema. And Rashi explains, as we're going to see later in the Gemara, because really, every pidyon petach chamor, even the ones that are given to the Kohen, are considered ordinarily owned animals, right? They're regular, regular animals. So you have to do Maser Behema on pidyon petach chamor. So now that it's sitting in the hands of the Yisrael farmer, because he didn't give it to the Kohen because he's not sure. So, likewise, it's obligated in Maser Behema. So again, Asfeika, all these uncertain animals, Nichnasen l'dilis asr. Now comes the kash. If you're going to tell me, if you were to propose that Tokfei Kohen ein motzines miyadei, if the Kohen would snatch it under these circumstances, right, with the silence and all that, he can keep it. The question now is, how can the Yisrael farmer include these disputed animals in his count, in his group of animals that are being counted from Maser Behema? It may turn out that the 10th one was actually this animal, so he's going to be making Maser Behema on an animal which is perhaps not even, which is partially the Kohen's. because the kohen has sort of access to it. If you grab it, it's his. So that denotes partial ownership. Potential ownership is like partial ownership, right? How could you include this suffix animal in your pen? Right? So if this animal happens to be number 10, so he's basically using something which is partially the kohen's to exempt all those other animals. You can't do that. Oh, apparently the kohen has no right, has no access. And that proves Rabbi's point. I'm going to buy you. Oh, they're not so quick. If this was your only proof, this wouldn't be a proof to Mar, to our master, to our Rebbe Rabbah. There could be another reason why he's doing it, why he's including it. Thu May was speaking, going to Leslie Alatisha, who this farmer only has a total of 10 animals, one of which is this one. So it's a win-win. The manavshach. So either way, he's safe. Even if you would propose that the kohen is sort of a part owner on this animal, and really the Israel perhaps should not be exempting his animals with this one, if it's really the kohen's, right? But there's no risk in this situation. Why? It's a very unique case. He only has 10 in total. Tisha the manavshach, either way is safe. Because if really the animal belongs to the Israel, which gives him a total of 10 animals that are fully owned by him, then he's good. The master is good. But really, if really this animal belongs to the kohen, so he doesn't even have 10 animals to work with. He's not chayyur, master behem. Right? Tisha, 9 animals are nothing. La bar isuri. They're not liable to master behem. So, theoretically, says Abai, theoretically, even if the kohen does have access to this animal, so basically there's an element of kohen involvement, kohen ownership, but still you're safe to include it. Hadar Abai came back and says, no, actually I'm wrong. No. This halach that allows the Yisrael to include the suffix into his account actually does prove Rabba's point that the kohen is totally shut out. Why? This fake la barisurihu. Because if in fact this animal is called, sort of a suffix, it's not considered the farmers. It's considered, maybe the kohen's, right? So its legal status is in limbo. If it were true, and we don't consider it at this point totally belonging to the Yisrael, then you could not even include it in the count. You don't say, well, let me take my chances. I only have 10, so either way I'm good. No, you can't do that. Because if it's in a state of uncertainty, you cannot count it as part of the 10. Right? And I'll prove my point. It's not. Halacha is, once you counted 1, 2, 3, and they went through the door and they're on the other side, and it jumps back in, that animal really messes everything up. So kafatz echad min amnuin the animals that were already counted jumps back into the uncounted ones, klum turn, they're all potter. And Rashi says, because once you're counted, you can't be counted again, you can't be included again. The pasuk says, Asher Ya'avar, Kfar Avar. If you already passed through, you can't redo that, right? So once he jumps in, everything becomes potter. Why? Hold it. Why is it messing everything up? In total, you only have one animal sitting in there, one animal amongst the 100 that have been exempted. So just run them through again. If even a suffix can be included in the count, let him go through the count again. Either way, he's good. The Gemara explains. Di bar chiyavu. Shaper maaser. Every 10, right? Every group of 10. Let's look at them independently. Is that jumper in here? Right? If he's not here, all these will never pass through the door, never counted. Shaper maaser, so that's good. Maaser is good. If the 10 that I'm looking at now has amongst them this kafatz, this animal that had been passed through and jumped back, so niftar b'minyan haroi. Right? So if we say that this group has a problem, number 10 isn't really number 10 of chiyuv, because amongst them you have one of them that had already been passed through. But either way, you're good. You're still exempt. You're still safe. Niftar b'minyan haroi. You're potter, because halacha is Dama Rav minyan haroi poiter. There's another point. Totally new halacha. Let's say you have a pen full of animals, right? Full of sheep, and you're counting 1, 2, 3. You get to number 5, and back in the corral, one dies. That's it. You don't have 10. You can't complete your number. The ones that were counted are already potted, because when you had counted them off, at that point it was a minyan haroi. It had potential. It was a count that had potential to be completed properly. Rashi brings the pasuk, right? Asher yaver v'lo shekvar av. It was already passed through properly. So either way, you're good. Because as you were counting them, right, you had enough animals in the pen to complete the number 10. Enough animals that had not yet been passed through. And the Mefarshim say was speaking, and he has many animals in there. So the animals that were now counted, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even if, let's say, number 6 happened to be that animal that jumped back in, it doesn't matter. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these animals had been counted properly. It's minyan haroi, right? And perhaps the ones after him as well, 7, 8, 9, 10, because there were still more animals inside that could have completed the number 10. So even though you have no idea what's going on, but at the end of the day, these were counted properly. So why can't you just do that? Why do we say that if an animal jumps back into the group, everything is gone? So apparently you have to draw some sort of conclusion. The reason why you're not chayav to be ma'aser mimanoshach, using this sort of, thinking process, because asiri v'hatay amarachman. The pasuk says number 10 should be maser. Number 10 means number 10 without any ambiguity. Right? So whenever there's some sort of suffix, you don't get involved. There's no maser when there's a suffix, plain and simple. You don't say take my chances. You don't do that. 10 is 10. If you're not sure it's going to be the 10th one of chiyuv, you don't do it. Hachanami. So back to our story with Rabba and Abaye, with the whole thing with the suffix b'chur over there, right? Says Abaye, if in fact the kohen would have ownership on the suffix b'chur, you would consider it as a suffix. You would not consider it fully owned by the Yisrael at this point. You could not include it. You could not use it as maser behema for the rest of the Yisrael-owned animals. Why? Because if the kohen has an aspect, an element of schus, of ownership, then it's not. Yisrael has no right to use it for his maser behema for the rest of his animals. So even though I want to take my chances, right? Remember we said we only have 10 with that one. So either way I'm good. If it's mine, then I'm good. If it's not mine, then I'm not chayiv. I only have 9, right? You don't do that. You do not go through the process of maser behema when you're not sure. Torah says, you could only make a Maser Behema on number 10, which is certainly number 10. With any suffix, you can't. Oh, says Abai, apparently we have full support for our Rebbe, for Rabbah, that no, the Kohen does not have any rights, any schus, any element of potential ownership. If he grabs it, give it back to the owner. Takva Kohen ain't mitzim the other. Takva Kohen mitzim the other. The Kohen should grab it, give it back to the farmer. So we look at it like he's certainly the owner. Now he has a right to use it for his Maser Behema. Now, just one more thing. I mentioned this before. What did he spoke about the Sveikis, right? What are we talking about? How do you get a suffix? My Sveikis. Ilem a suffix b'chayres. We say that the suffix animal is brought into the pen and included in the Maser Behema process. We're talking that a farmer has a sheep where he's not sure whether it's a firstborn or not. So why do we say that you can use it as part of the Maser Behema process? This is the pasuk by Maser Behema. Number 10 will be Kodesh. It wasn't, and now it is, right? You're endowing it with Kedusha. Not if it was already Kaddish, and if this suffix Bechar is really Kaddish, you can't use it for Maser Behema. Like we said before, we're not speaking about a kosher animal. We're speaking about an animal used to swap a firstborn donkey. Rav Nachman tells us that those are not Kaddish. If you have 10 of them, you have to do Maser Behema on them. Right? Rav Nachman, or Avo, Yisrael sheyesh le'asora suffix pitrei chamor b'sech beisai. So actually, he's citing a pretty complicated case. The basic halacha is that even if a kohen got these animals from the farmer as a swap for the petach hamor, he has 10 of them, he needs to do Maser Behema. Now we have an interesting case, which is just like an offshoot of that. Yisrael sheyesh le'asora suffix pitrei chamor b'sech beisai. Let's say a Yisrael happens to have 10 suffix pitrei chamor, right? Because he didn't give it to the kohen if it's a suffix. So he happens to have 10 of them. Ma'afar shalein asara seyin. Right? So he has 10 for donkeys which perhaps were firstborn. He's not sure. He lost track. So on the one hand, he can't just use it. It's asra. Ma'afar shalein asara seyin or ma'asra ein shaloi. So firstly, ma'afar shalein asara seyin. He designates 10, sheep, one per donkey. He swaps. So he fulfilled that obligation. He removed the Isser, he can use the donkeys. Typically, you give the sheep or the goat to the kohen, but in this case, no, because he's not sure it's a suffix. So he holds on to it. But if he has 10, it's liable to the halachas of Maser Behema. We treat it like any other animal. Right? It's not Kedusha, right? Maser ein shaloi. So he does the Maser Behema, and he keeps them. So that was the case that we spoke about. We're just clarifying. So he has this animal, and he does the Maser Behema, and we explained how it works. Okay. So in summation, we had discussed Migud Chashad Amamaynu Chashashvu Asa, which really sprouted forth as a result of our exploring the reason for the Shvuah of the Mishnah. Shnam Yechsem Batalas, why do we make a Shvuah? Rabbi Yehuda said, concerned about theft, snatchers. Well, then if you're Chashad Amamayna, how can you make a Shvuah? People will shy away from a Shvuah, and therefore it's effective. Abai didn't take that route. Rather, the concern is perhaps there's some sort of old accounts that he's trying to settle, but a Shvuah will scare him off. Rav Zera took us into a totally new realm. But now, one of them turned around and snatched it. His opponent was silent and then protested. How do we treat it? Concession or not? That took us into the next part of the discussion. If you would say that snatching works, what if he didn't physically snatch it? Rather spiritually snatched it by making it hegdish. So we tried to provide clarity by bringing the story with the Masusa. And that took us onto the discussion about the Kayin, Takva Kayin. And we'll continue with Hashem tomorrow. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.